podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast, home of the world champions, Chelsea. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. The morning after, Chelsea 5, Ajax 1, and it was just about the perfect Champions League night for us, wasn't it, really? You couldn't have written it much better. Bar a real sort of brain fart moment from Tosin towards the end of the first half of that penalty. Other than that, it was basically flawless, and yeah, a really enjoyable game actually to watch. I said before the game in the preview that it was a really important game for us to win based on the fixtures left and the number of points that you've got to get ready to qualify from the Champions League, and yeah, after 16 minutes, when obviously we're down to 10 men, you immediately thought, okay, this could be very good. And it was a brilliant moment, wasn't it, to score within sort of 20 seconds of the red card and immediately settled us down. And from that point forward, really, Chelsea just looked so in control. And a kind of a reassuring performance, I think. That's 4 wins on the trot now. Lots of different performances in the mix of that run. And this was the most comfortable, obviously, but also just a good sign that we can rotate, give other players minutes, and actually everyone's starting to look like they're kind of getting into gear for the season. I don't want to go over the top because it's certainly not a great Ajax side. I mentioned before that I was previewing the game on an Ajax podcast, which I did, and they were very, very pessimistic, I have to say, about the game. Actually almost asking for us to do them a favour and put them out of the misery of their current manager, Johnny Heitinger, as we did with Forest. So they were very pessimistic, and you could sort of see why. So I don't want to go over the top on performances, but definitely just positives to see. People like someone like Jamie Gittens, I think, is worth a mention. He's had a very slow start at Chelsea, but you just started to see little signs of a bit of confidence, taking on his man a little bit more, making good decisions with his passes. Still not 100% yet. You can see his confidence to get shots away isn't quite there, but there are little signs with him that actually he can be useful, start to grow into a really useful player for us. And obviously one of the big positives of the night was the fact that we could rest effectively so many players and bring players off at half time and all that kind of stuff, with obviously a very busy schedule coming up. So yeah, really, really positive on all fronts. Should I go through some of the key moments of the game? I guess I should. I thought that the first goal, Marc Guéhi, again, probably if there was one player I was picking before the game that I wanted to score, it would have been him. I was really pleased that he started, and you're then thinking, right, let's get you off the mark for the season. Let's get you the goal. And actually, it was a really good header back across goal by Wesley Fofana. I thought not an easy height for him to do that, and not the most emphatic of finishes. But as I'd sort of say, my new obsession about touches in the penalty box from strikers, he's just in the right place. He's 8 yards out, ready to basically tap it in. And I think what we've seen without having Delap and without having him, with João Pedro, who obviously we all love, is that actually sometimes you just need a presence in the box. And I think he showed in that moment why that's so important. So that was really a really good moment. Caicedo, obviously, heavy deflected goal. Won't talk too much about that. And then we had the 2 penalties. And all I'll say is very good penalties, both of them. Enzo Fernandez, who I watched the game with Joe. We were watching it together, and he was I don't trust Enzo on penalties, and it's something I've talked about on the pod before. And I then checked myself and was like, is this actually fair? Because obviously we all remember his missed penalty against West Ham for Chelsea. I think it might be one of the first he took for us. But actually, it's the only one he's missed in his career. And he hasn't taken a huge number, but I think he's taken about 10 penalties, including now plenty for Chelsea. He's only missed one. He's pretty reliable from the spot, and it was an emphatic penalty. And then I thought, huge credit to him on the second one to give the ball to Estêvão, who'd obviously won the penalty with a little jinky run against crazy tackles for both penalties, weren't they, from Ajax? You'd be pulling your hair out if you're an Ajax supporter. But Estêvão, we'll talk a bit more about what, again, the penalty sort of summed up his performance, didn't it? Absolute top bins, absolutely unsavable and emphatic. He looks so confident, doesn't he, as a player? Just so confident and just looks like he's having fun out there. Lots of subs at half-time, really good to see. And then obviously Tyreek George comes on, gets a good goal, good finish. Obviously another deflection, but good strike. And almost like he smiled. There was a little smile when he scored, which is nice to see. And again, Tyreek's long-term future probably isn't at Chelsea. Obviously, he was so close to leaving in the summer. But all of these performances and goals that he's getting is only going to, increase the number of clubs who are after him, increase his value. And actually, if he does eventually leave Chelsea, he'll leave with really good wishes. And he's actually become quite a useful player, hasn't he, to have kept around this season. Maybe one to look at in January, whether they find a move for him or whether they keep him to the end of the season. But he's certainly getting enough minutes to think that they'd want to keep him around. And then the other sort of player I wanted to put a call out for was Reggie Walsh. I was, again, laughing with Joe, thinking, are we finally going to see Lavia get his first 90 minutes? Of course he didn't. He came off, and probably sensible, to be fair, going into the weekend game. But Reggie Walsh comes on, he's just turned 17, and again, he looks so young. He's 17, he looks 14. Doesn't look like he's had to have a shave yet, but so comfortable on the ball, so assured, and does look like a special player. I think I looked at his stats and he only misplaced 3 passes all night. Plenty of neat and tidy play. And actually, credit to Marisca, I think. We perhaps take it for granted in Cobham now, because we're so used to these great players coming through. Like Josh Hutchinson comes on and is, again, superb as always. Maybe we take it for granted just how special it is to have these guys coming through the academy, looking immediately, first team ready. And I think there was the stat was going around last night that Chelsea had set a Champions League record with 3 teenagers scoring on the night. Obviously, 2 of them are obviously bought in with Mark Gui and Estêvão, so cheating a little bit. But it shows how young this group is, which we all know, but also how these Cobham boys can come on and look so good. I was a little bit disappointed, actually, that Kevin McQueen didn't come off the bench. He's very highly rated indeed. I thought he might get minutes, but I think they just ran out of subs, to be fair, in the end. But yeah, really, really good night, really comfortable win. Exactly what the doctor ordered, I think, in the Champions League. Suddenly now, you've got to win your home games, haven't you? That's 2 out of 2 at home, and a good way to celebrate our 200th Champions League game, which I heard in commentary is only we're only the eighth team to have hit that number, which I thought was actually quite decent achievement for the club, and so many memorable nights and memorable games in that run. Maybe one for another pod to talk about some of those in the future. We'll do it as a Champions League final preview when we get to the final later in the year. But yeah, great night. I'll hand over to Joe for his thoughts on the game. But it was a very enjoyable game, and often, I don't know if you as a fan you can relate to this. I love watching Chelsea. Of course I do, but often the Premier League games, it's so tense. The games are so tight that you kind of almost relieved when it's done, and if you got the right result, and it's not always possible to just relax and enjoy the football. But last night was one of those where you really could just sit back, relax, enjoy the game, and obviously enjoy the performance of Estêvão, who did just about a bit of everything. And if only that bicycle kick had gone in at the end, it really would have been very special. But yeah, a great night. And over to you, Joe.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And a fantastic summary there from Chris on the game last night. Yes, as he said, we watched it together. And yeah, there's not many games. I know he briefly mentioned this just now, but not many games where you can sit there with a couple of pints and just chat whilst the game's going on and feel pretty comfortable. The only time I did feel a little bit uneasy was when obviously Tosin brings down the Ajax striker for the penalty. And not to start with a negative, but I think he is my guy now that I'm going to be watching a lot. And I think that I just don't want to see him near the first team. The annoying thing is Marisca seems to like him, but I really don't. I think we've got 4 very, very good centre-backs that are ahead of him. And him coming in, even for that game last night, he's just so clumsy. Nothing. Ajax, they've got nothing in the game. They haven't got a chance, a cross, a shot, even a ball into the box, really. The first time they get into the box, he's so clumsy. Big ass, 17 size feet. And obviously trips the guy up, stands on his foot, gives away a penalty. From out of nowhere, we're 2-0 up with playing against 10 men. We give a goal away as cheap as that. And I just think you've just got to be better. It's the Champions League. It's the European Cup. We're not playing in the Conference League anymore where that sort of thing doesn't matter anymore. It matters a lot. And I think that Tosin's that player for me at the moment. I've got it in for him a little bit, I know, but I'm sorry, just not good enough. As for the team, it was bizarre. I think I expected a couple of changes, but I didn't see that lineup. However, once the game started, I had a feeling that Ajax weren't going to be great yesterday. Just had a feeling. I don't know why. You just do. I think you see them in the Champions League the first 2 games. They've lost them both, and you're like, okay, will they get their first one tonight? Hopefully not, obviously, but I just didn't see it. I just thought Chelsea would come out the blocks pretty well, which they did. When the guy got sent off, it made it very, very easy. And as Chris said, after 20 seconds after the red card, we scored, and it just settled us down, and it allowed us to kind of control the game from there. And we added a second not long after the first. But with this team selection, it had an air of Conference League about it, didn't it? You know, you're seeing Reggie Walsh on the pitch, Pong, I know they didn't start, but on the bench, and obviously Mark Guiu and Tosin and what have you. I was half expecting Dewsbury Hall to turn up at one point, but it was a really good feeling to sort of give some players a much-needed rest. Forgive me if Chris said this, but obviously Caicedo coming off just after half-time was a blessing in disguise, because that guy needs a rest, and we can give him a rest, then that's the best medicine. You know, you win the game comfortably, bring someone else on. Great to see the young players come on, like we said. Pong getting more minutes, and obviously Reggie Walsh, like Chris has mentioned. And I suppose when you win the game, any selection looks great, doesn't it? You know, you kind of go, oh, yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it? He's played a slightly weakened team. You could argue that Hatto's part of the weakened side. You could argue that Gittens is part of the weakened side. You know, they are first-team players at the end of the day, but they haven't had a lot of minutes or a lot of games with Chelsea, so they are kind of in that bracket at the moment. But I don't know, there was an air of, if you get this wrong, you're going to look really bloody stupid, because if we lose that game last night with a poor team selection, then we're sitting on 3 points from 9, and you're almost writing yourself out of the tournament at the very beginning. But he was brave. He went with his selection. He got it right on the night. Ajax weren't that great. They've obviously done a lot of analysis on them, so we kind of knew what to expect, as it were. So, you know, fair play. I think Jarrell Hatto was another bright spot from the game. I really enjoyed his performance. I'm liking what I see from him. I would personally like to see him play against Sunderland again. I would like to see that left-sided centre-half. I think he is growing. His first couple of games for the club, he came on as a sub, and I thought he was really a bit naive, a little bit slow, wasn't too sure about the physicality of the Premier League. I think he's just getting it now. I think those few games, just that Liverpool performance the other day, and the composure he showed last night, as well as a few other little sort of moments here and there, I think I've been very, very impressed with him, and I'd like to see that balance. That left-sided balance alongside Pong would be wonderful. I mean, that is an impressive back four. If you can go with Reece James, Pong, Hatto, Cucurella, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I know it's very, very young in the middle of the park. You could argue there's not a lot of experience there, but this Chelsea team don't have experience apart from Tosin. So, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, Fofana's knocking on the door. Is he still too early? I do think he played quite well last night. I'll give him his credit. I think Fofana was decent too. He attacked everything. He won a lot of balls. A good game for him to come into because Chelsea weren't under the cosh all night long. So he got the chance to kind of nick those balls in front of the sort of the attackers. He won a lot of sort of headers where he was always going to win them. The centre forwards weren't really aggressive, so he kind of had the upper hand there. His passing was good. His slide tackling was good. All the things you want him to do well, he did well. So whether or not the opposition wasn't great last night, it's not for him to worry about. He just needs to get 90 minutes under his belt and because Ajax were quite poor, it allowed us to kind of give everybody a bit of a run out, which was nice. And although I think there's going to be a lot harder tests coming in the Champions League as we go along, that's, an obvious statement. Chris is right. I would suggest there was a period of about 10 to 12 years when Chelsea played in the Champions League in the group stages where you could just basically go, we're going to win that one, we draw that one, and we'll qualify with almost maximum points. And I don't think that's great for football, if I'm honest. I think there has to be some kind of jeopardy in it. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, as Chelsea fans, we can all argue if we win 38 games this season where the opposition have no shots at goal and we have like 25 shots at goal and 90% possession, no one wants to see that. I'm sorry, we can argue the toss all we want. I don't want to see that. There has to be some kind of back and forth in the game for it to be entertaining. And Chelsea last night, though, gave us a little bit of that, but in a modern world. So we know the games are going to be difficult, like we just said, but that Ajax game last night was a real sign, I thought, of Chelsea growing as a team. There were pundits last year in the media speaking about our Europa League run and basically saying that, Chelsea couldn't compete in the Champions League. They couldn't do this against so-and-so team or that team. It just goes to show you that, every season the teams change, managers change, the players rotate, young players come through, old players leave or retire. And Chelsea now have got another year's experience under their belt. The players have got that European experience, which they didn't have last year. And I think we noticed it at the early stages of the European games. We were a bit like, there's a few rusty performers here. They're not used to this sort of different level of football because it's a different style as well as how aggressive it can be. It's obviously the Premier League is a lot more up and at 'em, but the Champions League is a lot more, if you go in hard, you're likely to give away a red card. So you have to be a little bit more cuter. And I think that Chelsea are learning those basic skills. And the fact that we found it so easy to dismantle Ajax last night. And yes, they're bottom of the group. Yes, they've not won a game. I'm fully aware of that. They're not doing great in the league either. But they're still in the Champions League. And they're still a team that can cause you problems if you let them. And if they were playing in the Europa League or the Conference League, they'd probably do very, very well. So that's my point, is that they're in the Champions League and we are dismantling teams in the Champions League. And that's brilliant to see. So I think even against Bayern Munich in the opening game of the campaign, I thought we played well. Bit naive defensively at times in that game, but I thought in key moments, the Cole Palmer goal, for example, the Cole Palmer goal that didn't stand at the end, and there was more than one chance that we had in between that as well. We didn't take them on the night, but I thought we played very well as a team. Stupid mistakes cost us on the night, but I think the team looks better. It looks more comfortable in its own skin. I feel as though the players are learning. I feel like the pre-season actually started against Crystal Palace, if I'm honest with you, in the Premier League. I felt like that game felt a bit pre-season-y to me, and the ones after that also. And I think it's taken that draw against Brentford, it's taken the red card and the loss against Man United, for example, for us to wake up a little bit and kind of go, oh no, this is it now. We can't afford to keep pissing around. And I've been quite impressed with Chelsea since the loss to Brighton. I thought we played quite well in the first half of that being magnificent. But obviously the red card again in that game cost us, and we were pretty poor after that. But since that moment, I think we've got our act together and we look a very, very solid team. I'm leaning towards at this stage that I'm quite enjoying what Marisca's doing. Now, he needs to keep the hammer down. He can't just rest on his laurels, but I'm quite happy with how he's looking and shaping the side. I'm quite enjoying that he's using a lot of his squad, which I've got no problem with because you need to do that in the modern world. And I'm just I don't want to put my hat in the ring and say I'm 100% behind Marisca, but I think if you gave me a line of 50% and you could swing one way or the other, I think I would definitely be on the higher end of that scale at the moment, because I'm liking the fact that he's getting on with the job. He's not complaining about injuries. He's not complaining about other things. He's just going, I've got these problems. I've got no Palmer. I've got no Carl, I've got no Delap, to give you some examples. And he just gets on with the job. And I think that's got to be commended. And I think lastly, I've got to say that the football seems to have picked up massively. It doesn't feel quite so drab. And I'm hoping that since the international window, they've had a good sit down, a good talk. And some of these players are coming back into form. I think Enzo's coming into form hugely. I think he looks really, really good at the moment. And if Liam Delap can come back sooner rather than later, which sounds like he might, which is great news, that's going to be nothing but a shot in the arm for him. So lots of good news on the horizon, which is great. And let's hope we can follow up this great 5-1 win with a result against Sunderland at the weekend.
Excellent summary, Joe. Excellent summary. It's actually before the game last night, Joe and I were talking over a beer, and I was sort of saying to Joe that, I don't know if I trust Chelsea yet. They hadn't regained my trust, I think, from those performances against Man United and Brighton. But Joe was feeling a bit different, as you just heard. He's kind of thinking he's seeing the growth in the side, and I have to say I'm getting there, and I really want to trust the group and kind of feel confident going into a game like Sunderland, which we'll talk about now. And again, I think we're on a good little run, aren't we? I was looking at the form, and the other thing to say about these 4 wins in a row is that we've only conceded 2 goals as well in that run. That Cody Gakpo goal, and obviously the silly penalty given away by Tosin. So we've perhaps could have conceded against Forest, for example, and a couple of other situations, but generally you've got to take the numbers as they are. And again, that stat that keeps going around as the run continues is true. Chelsea have only lost 1 game in the last it's 6 months plus, isn't it, since 1 game when we've had 11 men on the pitch, and that was at Bayern Munich. All of the other defeats, and there aren't many of them, have been with 10 men. So there really is a lot of green when you look at the results column, and I said that graph to Joe earlier, and it's a bit of a reminder of just what a good job Marisca has done really since sort of March time. So yeah, credit to him, and as Joe says, credit to the players as well. Just to echo kind of the point Joe made about the pre-season thing, I think it was talked about a lot in the summer, wasn't it, after the Club World Cup, and people kind of, I guess, guessing really how Chelsea would start the season, and because it was kind of unheard of, wasn't it, to have a club summer tournament and have such a small pre-season. Perhaps naively, I thought we might go the other way, and I thought we might hit the ground running a bit like a train and just be like, right, well, actually we've not had a break, so we're good to go, and we sort of pick up a couple of weeks after that PSG game and start the season really well. In actual fact, I think it was the opposite. I think as Joe said, I think it did take us a few weeks to get the legs ready, to get maybe the minds right as well. I think the mentality side, as much as the physical side, is probably so important, particularly in the Premier League, as well as we know there are, literally no easy games, and I think we're probably coming out the other side of that now. And credit to Marisca again for the fact that he's done it with all these injuries, because just getting the news of Delap back soon was massive, wasn't it? I think I'd started to think he might not be back until the new year. That was the kind of the rumours going around, and he's going to, feel like the new signing that he is when he comes back. And we've seen the difference that Mark Gui's made, which we talked about earlier. You put Delap in the mix as well, and suddenly you go, okay, we've got really great attacking options and can sort of cover for Palmer's injury a lot better, knowing that João Pedro and other players can play in that number 10. So yeah, lots to be positive about on that front. And I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but we're all getting so excited about the Estêvão performances, and rightly so. He's still only played about an hour on the pitch with Cole Palmer. That's all we've seen in competitive action, isn't it? We had that little pre-season teaser game at the Bridge where they looked unbelievable together for 45 minutes. You just can't almost imagine how fun that's going to be to watch when those two really get into the stride together. So when Palmer does come back, that'll be something that I just am very excited to watch. In terms of this game against Sunderland, then, it's, as Joe alluded to, it's not an easy game. They have started the season really, really well, particularly at home, has to be said. Home is where they've really torn some teams apart. They obviously lost at Man United. So, again, if Chelsea are serious about not just top 4 aspirations, but really putting pressure on the league leaders this year, then it is a game that you've got to win, however you do. If it's a 1-0 or whatever way you win it, you've got to go and win it. And I think Chelsea will obviously be strong favourites. Massive benefit. I'll go through what my team would be for the game, and what really you hear in it is just how many fresh legs there are going to be. So Obviously, Rob Sanchez in goal. He had the week off again, which is good news. Reece James comes in at right back. He again didn't play midweek, so he's fresh. I'm gonna not disagree with Joe, but I'm just gonna probably play what I think will happen at centre back, which is that I think, and what I'd probably be happy with, is that Achimpong and Chalobah play together and just keep that same pairing that got the clean sheet of Forest. I do love the idea of Hato coming in at left centre back, but I just think it's probably more likely that it's Chalobah. And again, he's had the week off as well, so he comes in fresh. Cucurella again comes in fresh at left back. It's an easy one. Caicedo and Enzo in centre midfield, probably as the two. I think at home to Sunderland, you probably got the right to be a bit more attacking, haven't you? And then I would play João Pedro, who again is rested, as a number 10 behind Mark Gui. And I thought it was interesting that Mark Gui came off at half-time last night, and I just sort of look at that and think, is that actually the biggest compliment Marisca could give him, to say, you've got your goal, let's keep your legs ready for you to start against Sunderland? Obviously, the team knows very well. And then the wingers, you could argue any of one of them just about, but Pedro Neto has obviously had the week off. He'll start without a doubt, and surely Estêvão has got to be close to having a start now. I just wonder, though, if he might do Garnacho on the fresh legs basis once again, and think a bit of that Premier League experience with Estêvão coming off the bench would be an easy option. So I'd probably go Estêvão, but I could see it being Garnacho. But you look at that 11, most of those guys are very, very fresh. They should be, so they're the same rest as Sunderland have had all week. And yeah, I've got that feeling again where I just can't really looking forward to every time Chelsea plays. Again, I'm really looking forward to watching the game on Saturday and just watching us at the moment. There's the spring is back in my step in that respect for Chelsea. So yeah, fingers crossed. And I'll pass over to Joe for his final thoughts on the game on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a great summary there, Chris, on the game. I don't really have too much to add on the Sunderland fixture. I kind of know what you're saying with the centre backs. I personally would just like to see the two youngsters play. I like you, will probably think that Trev will come back into the team too. I think just from being a greedy perspective, I'd love to see Achimpong and Hato play there just to see what that looks like. And I think Sunderland's a sort of a fixture you might be able to get away with it, opposed to say like, an Arsenal or someone. I suppose it's just me thinking, could they play together? And with that left-handed side centre-back give us a bit more balance, which I think it probably would. Trev certainly hasn't looked very comfortable on that side of the field, which I think for the Premier League games going forward, I want to see a little bit more assuredness there. Obviously, Levo Colwell is just such a huge miss to this club at the moment. But whoever plays should really have enough in the tank to sort of deal with Sunderland. You're right, Chris. Obviously, their form has been better at home than it has been away, although I think they did beat Wolves on the road last week, and the Wolves are really struggling at this moment in time. I think we shouldn't get too carried away, because Sunderland, will pose us some problems, and they will, like any team will in the Premier League, they always give you that kind of that feeling that if they go a goal ahead, first goal was key in all these games, it seems, at the moment, particularly with Chelsea, that you want to get yourself off to a good start, and like we did against Ajax, build on that, get a first and then hopefully get a second quite quickly and kill the game off and make life a bit easier for yourselves. And if you can take off Caicedo or Enzo or someone later in the game, then that would be a huge bonus to give these guys some rest. I think I just see a lot in the side at the moment that is good. I'm liking the fact that the team look very together. I think that moment when Marisca runs down the touchline against Liverpool and celebrates with the team, I have said this before, I know, but I think it's done them the world of good. I think it shows a real togetherness. And I think when your manager cares as much as he did and shows that to you and is willing to go and get himself a red card, I think is good for the players. I think it's nice to see him be so passionate. And yeah, I think that, we've been down this road before with Chelsea. When you think they're about to go on a long run, they go and get beat by Brighton or beat by Wolves or something stupid. So we just need to get the hammer down now. Make sure you go and get this game sewn up quite quickly. Go and get the result. Get 3 points. Then you got Wolves on I think Tuesday night in the League Cup. And yeah, another very winnable game. That the team selection will change for that game, I'm sure. But I just think this is a really important game going into the Spurs away match next week, to potentially pull away from a few teams below us. Keep the pressure on Newcastle, keep the pressure on Tottenham as well, because they've lost a game or two recently too. So you don't want to kind of give them any kind of points advantage going to our game next weekend. So yeah, overall, actually looking forward to the game very much. I think this is a game that Chelsea should win. As the joke has been recently, I'm going to predict that Sunderland are going to win 4-0 and hope that Chelsea reverse it, of course, use the double jinx. And it should be a very good outcome for us. But like I said with Chelsea, you never can tell. They do have this ability to surprise you and upset your weekend. But this is a really good opportunity for Chelsea now to put the hammer down a little bit, go and get 3 points against Sunderland. And overall, just keep yourself in the title race, in the top 4 race. And who knows, come January, where you are in the league. So yeah, really good opportunity for Chelsea to go and get some points on the board here.
Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.